Awesome. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Josh Chris podcast. Today, I am here with Brooke Sweedar. Um, and it is a pleasure having you here, Brooke Sweedar. You're such an amazing personality. Your profile is incredible. The work that you've done, the results you've, achieved, just absolutely phenomenal. Whenever I think about your profile, you know, like think about you personally, it's just you're just inspiring. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, thank you so much, Joshua. And I appreciate you inviting me to come on your podcast. It's such an honor. So thank you so much.
Yeah, pleasure's mine. Pleasure's mine. All right, so tell me. I do want to start off because, of course, some questions prepared for you today. But I actually um have seen a couple posts of yours. Sometimes you post a lot of technical posts, and you post posts, that will just soften the mood, stuff like that. Personal posts and stuff like that. It's just you documenting your journey, and it's just really beautiful. You also post about your cats as well. Do you want to tell me something funny, that happened today?
Sure. Oh gosh. I mean, it's always an adventure. Yeah. So anyone who's watching and doesn't know me, hi. My name is Brooke, and I am a bootcamp graduate and currently in process of transitioning my career into tech to become a software engineer. And yes, I do post a variety of content on LinkedIn. It does range from technical content, specifically about my coding projects or things that I'm learning. But I also do like to showcase my personality along the way, and I do own two cats, so they regularly make their way onto my feed as well.
Awesome. Okay, so now let's get this going. So now you could actually probably the things you didn't say a couple seconds ago, you could say them right now. Do you want to again probably introduce yourself and share your journey from executive recruiting to software engineering? What inspired
Yeah,
you to make that switch?
sure. Right. So, yes, I have worked as an executive recruiter, specifically in the manufacturing space here in the United States for several years, and I've been with the same company for a long time, and I really enjoyed my work, specifically the people that I've worked with. I really loved it, but the truth is, I've capped out at my current employer, so I had a decision to make, and it was either go be a recruiter somewhere else or maybe take a step back and consider making a change. And, although I've loved my career, I wouldn't say that recruiting I felt like was just my ultimate calling, right? Or my ultimate passion. So, I felt it was just as good a time as any to decide, okay, well, if I'm going to do something brand new, it might as well be something I am interested in. And I have dabbled with learning how to code a bit on my own for a few years now. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to do some research. And I ended up deciding to do a full stack web development boot camp for 6 months and put myself out there and tried to break into the tech industry.
That's awesome. That's so beautiful. So you actually decided to attend a coding bootcamp instead of, probably pursuing a college degree, because some people think, hey, you know what, if I want to get into software engineering, I do really need, a degree for that. But you wanted to actually, you pursued a coding bootcamp and you've gotten the skills and stuff like that. I want to learn about the factors, that actually influence that decision. When you're
Mhm.
making your research, how do I go? Because it's one thing to actually say, okay, this is my dream, or this is the goal of God in front of me. How do I get there? And then you make a decisions and stuff like that. So what factors influence that decision? And what advice would you give to others thinking of following this path?
Yeah, that's a great question, Joshua.
Thank
So
you.
yes, I did take some time and I considered briefly going back to college. I actually never finished my degree, so I don't currently have a formal college degree. But I'm 28 years old, and that's still young. But the thought of going back to 2 or 4 more years of school
Oh
just did not
yeah.
do it for me. I was like, it's too much time, it's too much money. I've been working as a professional for years. I've had a great career. So I was like, okay, so what are my other options? And there are people who break into the tech industry successfully that are self taught, right? Who just follow
Yeah,
tutorials, learn how to build. And I have deep respect for them. But I personally felt like I needed a bit more structure. And also, I was feeling overwhelmed with, as I'm sure you come to know, Joshua, like how many languages there are, how many different paths you can take in tech. And I felt like I needed a little bit more guidance. So,
absolutely.
yeah, so I was looking into boot camps and I really did my research because I have spoken to people who've had positive experiences and also people who have not, who felt like, unfortunately, they felt like they wasted their time and their money. And it is a big investment, both financially and with your time. So I was very careful when considering which boot camp to choose for myself.
Oh yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. It totally makes sense. You know what? I had this podcast episode with Amy Abafor, and she said
Mhm.
something absolutely wonderful. She did say that, when considering, hey, you know what? You tell yourself, I do want to become a full stack developer. I do want to become a front end developer, a back end developer, whatever it is. And you say, I've made my research. These are the things I need to learn and stuff like that. Self-taught, that's beautiful, but if you do really want, results fast, why don't you go with, a platform that has got everything structured out for you,
Right.
you know? So that all makes sense. Like you mean business, you want to get this done and not just figure out if you can do it all on your own. You needed that structured platform. That makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, I felt like I'll use the word pressure
Okay.
was helpful for me because the one I did was a 6-month program and it was very fast paced. Like I had to keep up because if I
Oh yeah.
didn't, I was going to fall behind. And once that happens, it's so much more difficult to catch up because our next class, we're totally moving on to new concepts. It's
Okay.
building on top one thing after another.
That's
So it,
right.
it, it took a lot of discipline. I do think boot camps are not for everybody. Because of how intense they are, but if you can mentally make that commitment and be like, "Okay, like, I'm going to do what it's gonna take," and you understand exactly what that is going to require, I do think it is a good option for people.
That's really beautiful. Wonderful. Okay. So, I mean, actually, you've been featured on multiple podcasts and shows. Do you want to share, what it is like sharing your journey on these, or your story in general? What does it feel like when you share your story on these platforms?
Yeah, it's really special. I feel very fortunate that I have had some really remarkable people in this industry want to reach out and talk with me, interview me, feature me. I consider it a huge blessing. And it's funny because to me, my story isn't necessarily that special. And I only say that because there are so many people doing what I'm doing in the sense of wanting to break into the tech industry, right? Or completing a boot camp, learning how to code, building projects and everything. I think the biggest difference is that I've just been so public about it. And I think in the tech
Yeah.
industry, many people, the stereotype of being kind of introverted and maybe a little bit shy. I do think that that does apply to a lot of people, and that's okay. I'm also very introverted too. But for me, I also knew that I was starting from scratch in a very competitive market, and it's very difficult for a lot of people to get a job right now in tech. So I kind of had to get over that and push past that and build in public anyways and post and to stand out. I wanted to make myself as hireable as possible, but accidentally it caught people's attention and I think it resonated with a lot of people too. So it's very empowering. I think I always tell people when they ask me about getting the courage to start posting and to start sharing their story, like don't underestimate the impact that what you're doing can have on someone else.
Yeah. I mean, you inspire me as well. You started, do you know what? Do you want to tell me how long have you been in this? How long has it been for you?
Right. So I started my boot camp in January, but I didn't start posting on LinkedIn until the end of February of this year.
Aren't you just amazing? Oh my God, you are gonna get my eyes watered. Like, you inspired me that I got the chills. January. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been very special. I know my growth has been crazy, and
Hmm.
like the numbers are great. I'm very
Yeah,
thankful, but like that wasn't the goal. I did not
yeah,
start posting on LinkedIn with the intent of suddenly having thousands of followers, and I just feel very blessed. I feel very fortunate to have the audience that
yeah,
I now have.
yeah. So, okay, let's talk about some technical things here.
Sure.
Yeah, you started in January. I want to see. Let's. Okay, so here's another question for you. Do you want to tell me about your tech stack and why you actually chose that stack? Also, you could tell me about the favorite, your favorite part of working with the technologies in your stack, and how you also stay up to date, with the latest trends in the industry in general.
Absolutely. And that can feel like a very overwhelming thing, I think, for people just starting out in tech too, because there are so many different languages, frameworks. There's always something new coming out. And oh my gosh, it can be so
Oh
overwhelming.
yeah,
But so
that's
my
right.
my boot camp that I did taught JavaScript. It was technically a full stack boot camp. So we went over JavaScript, React, and Node. That was the tech stack. And like of course basic HTML, CSS, and from then, I took it upon myself to play around with Tailwind CSS, which I personally love.
Oh,
I really like front end work. I love design, and I just think Tailwind is super intuitive. So any chance I get to use it, I do. And then from there, as I was getting ready to enter the job market and paying attention to a lot of job descriptions specifically for front end engineers, and that is what I'm targeting as a front end role.
okay, okay,
Um, a lot of them were looking for TypeScript, and I was like, "Oh, man." So so right now I'm learning TypeScript,
nice.
slowly but surely. I'm starting to build in TypeScript, and thankfully, I think that the transition from JavaScript to TypeScript isn't too dramatic, so I actually feel thankful that I don't feel like I'm totally starting from scratch, but rather
Oh
just
yeah,
adjusting my learning.
that's right. Have you ever participated in any kind of pair programming before, whether from a
Yes.
bootcamp or okay?
Yeah, and I'm actually really glad that my first of all, that my boot camp, had us do a lot of that, and that
Oh
was
yeah,
great experience for me because I think too that the thought of someone seeing you code live can
yeah,
feel very scary, but it's great practice. It's an excellent way to learn.
yeah.
So we did a lot of that in my boot camp, and also Joshua,
Okay.
because of my networking efforts, I now have all these friends that I've just hopped on a call and done some pair programming with
Yeah,
off the cuff, and it's been great.
that's so cool. Do you want to tell me about? I didn't know if the question I want to ask is actually part of the ones I prepared for you, but right off the bat, I just want to learn if you about your favorite projects that you've worked on these pair programming sessions.
Oh, so for the pair programming, I mean, I've done a myriad of things, and not even necessarily working on like a collaborative thing to the end, but sometimes it's rather just helping people with their own libraries or someone teaching me about unit testing, you know.
Okay.
But as far as my favorite personal projects that are not, have not been with pair programming. So for my boot camp, I did a capstone project, which was an e-commerce website.
Awesome.
And I had so much fun because I wanted to do something different, like,
Oh
just I
yeah.
didn't wanna do a plain old website, right? So,
Yeah.
I called it, SW Essentials, like software
Yeah.
essentials,
Yeah.
and I made all the inventory like the stereotypical items that developers do, so it's like energy drinks
Hmm.
or like a mechanical keyboard or a bunch of rubber ducks or stuff like that, and people thought it was so funny, so that was a
Yeah.
really cool way to show my skills and my personality too.
All right. So how do you stay updated or up to
Um,
date with the
sure. I
trends?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I read some really good tech newsletters. I am connected with some really talented, seasoned professionals in this industry, LinkedIn helps a lot. Honestly, I'm having conversations on a daily basis with um, managers, senior engineering managers. I'm friends with people who work both in big tech and also work in the startup space. So I feel like I get a lot of good information that's fresh and relevant in front of me. Like that is a really undervalued part of networking.
Awesome. So, with your background as an executive recruiter, how has this experience, influenced your approach to teamwork, collaboration, and communication in tech projects?
Right. Yeah. So one thing I didn't realize was how much of an advantage actually my experience as a recruiter would be in this field. Because my recruiting background, I still worked with engineers. It just wasn't in tech. I was working with manufacturing engineers. So, but the thing is, like, I've never even stepped foot in a manufacturing plant before, but I can sit here and talk to engineers all day. And I do know what I'm talking about because I've learned enough, right, to
Yeah,
understand and have those conversations. And so I am technically inclined. And then also being able to communicate with like C-suite professionals in the corporate world. I've been doing that for years. So that translates really well to the tech world because although now I'm actually learning the technical stuff myself, I'm able to have these conversations with the actual software engineering side of things and then also the business leaders, right? And I think that that would be a really big advantage for a startup environment. And I think that I'll be able to, even though my coding skills are relatively junior, and as I'm continuing to learn and grow, I bring a lot on the business side of things.
that's really important, and that's amazing as well. All right, so here's another question that I didn't prepare to ask you, but I just thought about right now.
Sure.
Yeah, you currently on the lookout, right? You yet to get your job, your
Mhm.
dream job, and I do want to know, did you actually? Because when I see all the things you do, you are interesting, and yeah, actually. So I'm like, probably you do have a lot of things scheduled out. I'll just be, you know, probably chilling, and I'm gonna see like how many posts. I'm like, okay, she's probably scheduled these posts, but that's great. So learn about your personality and the drive that you've got. I do want to know, did you sort of like give yourself, a time limit for you to, get a job? Not really a time limit, but are you working with, you know, a time frame?
I mean, ideally, I would say no. So first
Okay.
of all, I'm currently employed. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not like there are people in this industry who like they need to get a job now, right? We all have bills and responsibilities that we need to take care of. So I'm in a more fortunate position where I am more interested in finding the right fit, even though it's my first tech job.
Yeah.
Like I honestly, I don't just want to accept any junior level developer role that comes my way.
Yeah.
I'm interested in really contributing something important
That's
and
right.
ideally being able to, like I've been talking about, bring my tech skills and then also my business acumen and my interpersonal skills as well.
Sure. I'm rooting for you all the way.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Okay, so let's talk about this bootcamp, online learning, and general advice you might have. So, I mean, there's a lot of bootcamps out there, right?
Yes.
So, what advice would you give to someone who doesn't know which to go with,
Yes.
And so, what should they watch out for to ensure they're not wasting time and money, especially with so many options available?
That is such a good question.
Thank
And
you.
I love talking about that because I do think especially since the rise of COVID and everything, boot camps skyrocketed. Right now there's billions to choose from. I mean, it was
Oh,
overwhelming even whenever I was making my own decision. So I definitely did my research. I did everything from like cost comparison, right, to
yeah.
truly figuring out what they taught, what kind of support I could expect to receive. So the one I did was Full Stack Academy. In my opinion, it was a good experience, and they offered 1 year of alumni support. So after you graduate, like career search support. So I have literally a team. I have access to a special job board. I have access to all sorts of classes for a full year, everything from like how to build a LinkedIn, resume advice, coaching anytime I want. So to me, that there was like a lot of value add with that. That was a big part of why I chose them. Okay, we're back on. So when choosing a boot camp, I was looking at all the factors to consider, and I always advise people to avoid signing up for boot camps that offer like guaranteed employment. I think that that's just not realistic. How can you really deliver on that promise? Right now, you
Oh
can promote
yeah,
saying, this percentage of our graduates are employed within 6 months, like as a selling tactic. That's completely different versus like offering
yeah.
a guarantee. So you just want to make sure, do your research. Another thing I did on LinkedIn too was when I was researching my specific boot camp, you can search for people who attended a specific boot camp, like alumni, and
Oh
message
yeah,
what was their experience. I mean, because sometimes you can't trust online reviews. I don't mean to sound pessimistic, but that stuff can be faked. People can put up whatever they want sometimes. So
yeah.
definitely use caution. You don't want to throw away your time and money. And last bit of advice too, which was something that surprised me, is how many people did not make it to graduation in my boot camp, which again, I felt was a positive experience. And I think that sometimes people think the idea of breaking into tech is very attractive. They like the idea of it. You make good money, you could work remotely. It's not that hard to learn how to code, like all these things that are sold to you. But if you haven't actually experienced coding at all, don't just go sign up for a boot camp. Like at least try one or two tutorials. You don't have to do too much, but just get a feel for if you even like it, because it's not
Yeah,
for everyone. And that's okay, but don't spend thousands of dollars just to realize you actually kind of hate it. And that I saw that happen with people.
that's right. That's right. That's really great. Great advice there. You actually, we did have, a chat before, and you mentioned that about scams in the tech education space,
Right.
they really are a real issue, right? So, what would you say, what red flags should someone be aware of when evaluating online courses and bootcamps?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, just really do your research beyond like that boot camp's website. You know what I'm saying? Like if it's
Yeah,
this bootcamp.com or whatever it is. As I mentioned, they might list that they have all these great reviews or great statistics, but try and have a conversation with a real person that has actually experienced that boot camp or maybe has landed a job after completing a boot camp. I think just in general, having conversations with other boot camp graduates is wise. Like I said, because I've spoken to graduates who've had good experiences and bad. So you just have to use your own discernment and your own best judgment, but do your research.
that's right. Awesome. All right, so let's talk about your biggest challenge, during your bootcamp experience, and also tell us how you overcame it.
Sure, right. So it was intensive. It was not easy. And I always want to make sure people know that like I did well. I did the work. I showed up to class, and so for me it was 3 evenings a week, 3.5
Okay.
hours per class. And that was after my full-time job every day, and then
Yeah.
outside of class too, I still had to code and do my homework and complete my assignments. Like it was very, very time consuming. And beyond the time as well, it got to a point once I got past like the more rudimentary stuff where there was a lot of times I didn't understand what I was doing. Like, these concepts were just so new to me. And
Oh yeah.
so I was very fortunate that I had such great teachers and also great classmates. Like I could hop on a call with them after hours and be like, "Hey, can you walk through this with me? Like honestly, can you help? Can we help each other?" Right? I just
Yeah.
need deeper understanding. And so without that support, I think I would have struggled a lot more.
Awesome. I mean, here's another question. I mean, that totally makes sense. That totally makes it. It's such a beautiful journey, actually. I do want to ask another question, but I think you already talked about it. You touched on it a little bit. Well, so it's about you comparing the value of self-paced online learning, to
Mhm.
structured education platforms, like actual boot camps, So, do you think one offers an advantage over the other? Of course, you think so. But do you want to touch on that again?
Sure. So, as I've said, I don't think a boot camp is for everybody. I
Oh,
think it was a
okay.
really good option for me. Like I said, I felt like I needed a push. I needed that accountability.
Yeah,
I needed to
yeah,
have like, you have to have this assignment done by Friday, otherwise, like there are consequences.
yeah, yeah,
So that investment was really good for me, but I have some very intelligent friends who are totally self-taught and have been successful in this field. And I will say too, like nowadays, there are some incredible resources that are completely free that you can absolutely learn how to code, how you can learn a language and learn how to build real practical projects and applications. So I always recommend to people John Crickett's coding challenges. He's a genius. They're totally
yeah,
free. They're fantastic. And then also Free Code Camp by Quincy Larson is an excellent resource, and you can even get certifications that you can add to your
yeah,
LinkedIn, totally free. So you just have to again use your own discernment and judgment. If you feel like you can stay disciplined and stay on track, um, and not spread yourself too thin, because you one thing I also recommend to people, especially if you're going to go the self-taught route, is
mm,
pick one language and stick with it. Don't do a little bit of Python and then learn Go and then JavaScript. You're wasting your time, honestly. You need to pick one and gain a deep understanding, and then you can learn to build from there. But if you don't understand on a deeper level why these languages do what they do, you're just not really going to go anywhere.
yeah. That's really good. You talked about accountability, and I thought that was really beautiful. That's really good. You just get to learn about your personality, and there's just people, they need that push, and
Mhm.
accountability is very important because this is like a thing in the industry, especially with aspirants or beginners.
Mhm.
They learn for such a long time and they're not quite sure about the progress. There's people like that, and I think that word accountability is a real thing. Yeah, because it's self-paced, whenever you
Mhm.
feel like, then the results you might be getting would could be shortchanged, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah,
So
I agree.
yeah. All right, so let's talk about this. As someone currently job hunting, um, I want to know, are you working on any side projects or collaborating with others to keep your skills sharp? Now, okay, of course, you've got to know that these questions were prepared before right now, but listening you all the way to this moment, probably you've already answered this.
Well, yeah, so I am continuing to I have several different avenues. First of all, I'm currently partnered with Code Crafters, which
Okay,
is fantastic, and I will preface I do have a sponsored partnership with them, just to be completely transparent, but
all right,
I genuinely do use their software to keep my coding skills sharp. I build projects. I've been using them with both JavaScript and TypeScript. I find it very helpful. Highly recommend them. But also, I've continued to dabble with Free Code Camp post graduation too. And right now, I'm in the process of building my own personal website.
awesome, awesome. So your personal website that you're gonna have your projects, probably
Mhm.
all your
Yeah.
projects, all the major ones there.
Right. Yeah. It'll be my basically my portfolio site.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. I was waiting for the right time. So you already answered it. Cool. So, and then you talked about the platform. Your was it Code Crafters?
Yes, Code Crafters. Yeah.
Oh
So they,
yeah.
like I said, they offer learning to build very practical projects and applications in 20 different languages. It's a great software. Their AI is really intuitive with providing feedback, and they have a lot of like very good actual customer service if you run into any problems. Like it's really easy to get in touch with a person. So I'm enjoying it immensely.
Awesome, awesome. I mean, Of course, we should have the link in the description. Maybe after now, you're gonna send it to me, and I'll
Yeah,
include it.
absolutely. That would be great. Thank you.
Pleasure. All right, so let's talk about a recent projects that you've worked on. You know, okay, you actually talked about that before, right? Yeah, you did. Okay, so let's talk about your process of collaborating with others on tech
Mhm.
projects. What's your process like? Especially if you working remotely, how do you ensure that communication remains smooth and efficient? And not just about the soft side, communication and collaboration and all of that. Talk about all the processes as well.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate to be connected to much more senior, seasoned tech professionals to do some of this, especially like the paired programming or learning. And honestly, they've taught me even so much more, even though I'm used to working remotely and communicating with teams long distance, right? And even in different time zones and everything. But truly,
Yeah,
the communication skills do matter. And being transparent, staying on top of agendas, showing up on time, like all those little things can make a world of difference and just continue to showcase your professionalism. So I've been just super fortunate to be able to do all of this with people who they know what they're doing. So they show up for me just as much as I show up for them.
yeah. So you've actually built a strong personal brand on LinkedIn. That part excites me a lot. You're amazing. I see all the time when I talk about you. Okay, and all the platforms as well. So what do you think holds developers back from putting themselves out there, and how can they overcome that hesitation?
Absolutely. Yeah. So no matter what platform you're talking about, putting yourself out there on the internet is scary, right? You're suddenly vulnerable. You're suddenly exposing yourself to potentially thousands of strangers, and you might face criticism, and the internet can be scary. People aren't always nice. Like, I trust me, I experience that all the time firsthand.
Yeah,
It sucks. I don't like it, but I think you also have to pay attention to the doors that it absolutely will open if you do choose to post and build in public and be vulnerable, and put your voice out there. Your
yeah,
story is going to resonate with people. And also, from an employability standpoint, you never know who's paying attention to your content and who's going to reach out to you and be paying attention to your skills and everything that you do bring to the table. So, I mean, it's worth it. Like, the worst thing that's gonna happen is maybe you might get a couple of not nice comments, and I'm so sorry if that does happen, but I promise you, like, the ratio of that to the encouragement and support that you're going to find in the tech community, it's just worth it. You should
yeah.
push past it. You should absolutely put yourself out there. I know how scary it is, but man, it's changed my life 100%. Like, since
Awesome.
February, my life looks completely different now because of being public online.
Yeah. And the next question was gonna go in that line, talking about why it is important to be public with your work and tech. So let's talk about right now, since you've already talked about that, let's talk about the steps that you recommend for someone looking to build their online presence from scratch.
Yes, and it's so important to remember too that everybody starts from scratch, right? I did. I
Yeah.
had no connections in tech, didn't know anybody. I didn't really have any connections on LinkedIn. I didn't know what I was doing. I did not have any sort of master plan. So, a couple of actionable tips for someone starting from scratch. Focus, especially I'll talk about on LinkedIn specifically, but
Okay.
focus on getting your connections up to 500. That should be your first threshold, okay? So
Yep.
as you're sending invites to people, you can even start locally, looking up software engineers or whatever relevant titles, right, to what you're doing or what you're looking for. And then it's so much easier to send them a little connect message saying, "Hi, I'm also located in this area. I'm just looking to connect with other tech professionals. Would love the opportunity to add you to my network." Something short and sweet. You don't have to write a novel, but keep it genuine. And then also definitely spend time engaging on other people's content. That's going to allow people to get to know you better. I think people put too much pressure on creating their own content first, but I actually think it's even more important to spend time on other people's content because then you're more organically allowing them to get to know you as a person, and your voice. And then when you start posting, you're no longer a stranger. They're like, oh, they show up every time I release my latest newsletter or something, or they
Yeah,
commented on my video this morning, because it's so much easier to just want to scroll because there's so much content out on the internet.
yeah, that's right.
And that's a great way to stand out and also build real relationships and connections along the way.
Awesome. So let's talk about you right now, your personal blueprint. I want to learn about how you actually curate, contents for your LinkedIn to make
Mhm.
sure it reflects your technical skills while also showcasing your personality because you do that big time.
Thank you. Yeah. So
Pleasure.
I definitely try to keep a mix. Now there are some amazing content creators that post much more technically than I do. I mean, like much more frequently. I like to have fun. I can't help it. Like I enjoy making jokes. I enjoy memes, I also find it very relatable. I also think that that's a big part of why people resonate with me, is because they feel like they're actually getting to know human Brooke. And so whenever I post my videos or share something about my cats, it's like, yes, I'm trying to break into software, but I'm also this person, right, who's experiencing real life. And sometimes that means the frustrations or the little wins that come along the way too. And it's, I think, created a lot of trust with my followers. I think that they feel that I am being authentic, and because I talk about my mistakes that I've made and my willingness to learn and being open-minded. But along the way, yes, I do make a point to talk about the things that I'm working on, the latest technologies that I'm adopting. And I just always try to do it in a relatable way that doesn't feel so robotic or just hidden behind a wall of text.
Yeah, awesome. That's really cool. So,
Mhm.
what's your ideal like are you looking for a remote job or it's gotta be probably hybrid?
So for me, I'm looking for remote only opportunities. And actually, once I'm employed in my tech role, I'm planning on moving to another part of the country too. So that's
Oh,
another part of the consideration. I want to move
do you have a
north, but
YouTube channel?
no, I do not. As of
I was
right
gonna
now, I
ask
do
if you
not.
were gonna make a vlog about that. I would watch you all day.
Oh, thank you. I have some things in the works. I won't say more right now, but as of right now, no, I do not.
Okay,
So because I'm taking my time to set things up correctly.
okay, that's cool. All right, so I want to learn about the most important factors you consider when searching for your next role, especially in terms of company culture and career growth.
Absolutely. Well, as I mentioned, I'm specifically interested in working in a startup environment because I have worked very hard to build up my personal brand and I've done a good job. And so, what I intend to bring to the table beyond just my technical skills is also being an asset to the company itself, to bring brand awareness and brand visibility. Everything in life is sales. And I've met with some incredibly intelligent people in tech, especially people who are interested in doing a startup. And you can have the best idea in the world, truly. But if you don't have an audience, it's not going to matter that much. If you don't know how to sell it or promote it, that can really be a deal breaker. So I'm intending to find an environment where I can stay and grow and continue to add on to my technical skills, get some of that experience under my belt, while also sort of bringing a little bit of that DevRel side to that too.
Yeah, awesome. So, I mean, a recruiter could be listening to this right now, a hiring manager could be listening to this right now.
Sure.
Are you ready to get started? If you
Yes.
got, okay,
I'm absolutely ready. I'm very actively looking, interviewing, and ready to get started.
I was gonna go off in that line, doing a little bit of an interview right now, just in case, a potential hiring manager were watching this, so they could get some information right off the bat without even reaching out. But that's cool. All right, so let's talk about what's been the most challenging part of job hunting and how do you stay motivated and focused during this process?
Yes, yes, it has. Not been easy. It's interesting because I am doing a combination of continuing to post about me looking for work on LinkedIn and trying to reach out to my network and just hoping one different person sees it and will reach out to me. And that has absolutely led to conversations and interviews, which has been fantastic. But on top of that, I am also cold applying on all the job boards, sending over my resume, going through that way. And that's led to several technical tests, and I've done well on those. But again, and it's just like haven't heard back, and that's pretty common. I understand coming from the recruiting side of things how that works, but it can be discouraging. And I would recommend anyone else in my position, please make sure you have a community of people of support. I am thankful I have some fantastic friends that are in my corner that are also experiencing what I'm experiencing, and it's like we are in this together. Don't give up, don't lose hope. It's going to happen, but you got to be consistent. You have to stay at it.
Awesome. Okay, so here's another question for you. Um, I mean, having navigated multiple roles, across different sectors, what's the most valuable piece of advice you've received in your career? And how has it shaped the way you approach your professional journey?
Right. I think that you have to be your biggest advocate in your own career. You can't expect other people to do it for you. It's great if you do end up having people in your corner, especially that you work for, but that's not something that's going to be a guarantee. So I do think you always need to, no matter what industry you're in, whether it's tech or anything else, you do need to just be aware. Make sure that you have transferable skills. Make sure that you keep track of all of your successes and wins along the way. You never know whenever you might need to add them to a resume to showcase to future potential employers, but you definitely need to advocate for yourself.
Such a wonderful advice. Thank you. All right, so I mean, with the rise of AI, you know, we're gonna talk about AI. Did you see that coming?
Sure. Yeah, that's only
Yeah.
natural.
So how do you see the tech industry, changing over time, over the next few years, and what skills should developers focus on to stay competitive, having AI in mind?
Sure. I mean, there's all kinds of talks about like AI is coming for our jobs and whatnot. And
Mm-hmm.
AI is absolutely a part of our world. I don't mean to minimize it in any way. It's becoming a part of our everyday lives, not just in tech, but in other areas too. So, I say embrace it if it helps you become more efficient, if it helps you automate things and save time. It can absolutely be super helpful. But I do not personally hold fear of it eliminating things in this industry
Absolutely.
as of now. There's so much more that needs to be done, and we need
Yeah,
human engineers to make that happen. And also, um, no matter what, we also need the human connection. We need the human touch, and that's just something that cannot quite be replicated at this point.
that's right. That's right. Do you want to talk about the AI tools they use personally?
Sure. So I'm a big Chat GPT fan, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
use it. Sometimes I use it for content ideas. Now, I am very proud, and I will say this: my content is not AI generated. I spend a lot of time and effort to come up with stuff, but sometimes I do use it literally just to get my wheels turning, right? Just to come
Yeah,
up with ideas or something, or to create generative images. That's sometimes fun. In my coding life, so I personally avoid Copilot at this point, mainly just because I still feel like I'm so in the learning stage that I
yeah,
try my best to complete everything myself. But I do
yeah.
use AI for debugging if I don't have someone on hand to ask, and I just
Okay.
truly cannot figure something out. Sometimes
Yeah.
ChatGPT actually does a good job of being like, Brooke, this is why this isn't working. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I fix it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. All right. That's cool. So, what advice would you give to someone who's just starting out in the tech industry?
um make friends, truly have conversations with people at all levels. I think you'd be surprised how willing people are to help and assist people in this industry. I think naturally too, software engineers have this desire to want to share their knowledge. And I think that that's part of why people were so responsive to me because they could sense my desire, my hunger for learning and wanting to do things and being very passionate about technology and breaking in to this industry. So, don't limit yourself. If someone doesn't respond, that's okay. That's going to happen. But again, that could lead to employment opportunities, to collab opportunities. And in my case, like that was the first video interview I ever did was with Nick Costantino. He's a senior engineer at Microsoft. And that happened from a chat. And, he liked me and wanted to learn more about my story. And that was totally crazy. And that was months ago. And, look how things have grown from there.
Yeah, that's so awesome. All right, so this one is for me though. This question is for me. Well, I know other people would want to learn about, you know, things you're gonna say, but I want to know how you did it. Of course, you've touched on this, but if there are things that you did not say before that you may want to say right now, here's a question. How did you do it? How did you grow that fast on LinkedIn?
I will say a little bit of luck, okay? But hard work and sincerely, I've invested a lot of time into building my brand on LinkedIn, and I will not discount myself for that. I have
Yeah.
been very consistent. I've shown up every single day. I've responded to the DMs. I respond to the comments. I make a point to actually engage and connect. I don't post and ghost, where you just throw
Oh
something up
yeah. That's right.
disappear. Sure. And I've said yes a lot to many things that have been uncomfortable and scary for me. Like I said, doing that video interview, I'd never done anything like that in my life. And I was so nervous and I was so terrified. Oh my gosh. But it was so worth it. And all it's done is sharpen my people skills. And I think that has been motivating to people because also I continue to talk about the fact that I still get nervous, right? Like I'm still just a person. Trying to break into tech. I don't have any magic secrets or anything. But I'm willing to do what it takes. So if I can do it, you can too. And I think that people find that inspiring and relatable.
All right, that's really cool. All right, so here's another question. Looking ahead, what's next for you? Are there any upcoming projects, collaborations or areas of technology that you're excited to dive into? And talking about the project side, do you have anything you're cooking? Probably you have this idea of creating something probably better than the current chat GPT. I'm just kidding.
No, well, I mentioned I'm currently working on my personal website. I'm also doing some really cool DSA stuff with someone, and I'm not ready to drop names yet because it's still in the works
Oh
of
yeah.
being produced and put together. But yeah, I have many different collaborations coming up on many different exciting things, and I'm excited for what's to come.
Awesome. Awesome. I follow you and I'm gonna be looking out for everything that you've got to share, with your audience. Guys, you should go follow Brooke on LinkedIn. She's amazing. The link is gonna be in the description. And here is our final question. Then I'm gonna ask you the question that I ask all my guests. Do you know what the
Sure.
question is?
Is it
No, don't tell me yet.
okay,
Yeah,
go
just
for it.
hold it. Okay, so here's the final question before the last one. So, looking back at your tech journey, so
Mhm.
far, right? What do you hope your legacy will be in the industry? It's probably too quick to ask, but you could probably have something to say, right?
Yeah.
Both in terms of your work and community impact.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. So I'm very passionate specifically about women in tech and in STEM.
Oh,
And when I think about my legacy, I mean, a lot of women have a difficult time working in a very male dominated industry. And also the statistics with how many women break into tech and then leave just a few short years later, it's a bit devastating. And so my favorite thing, even so early on in my tech career, are the messages that I get from women saying, "Oh, that I'm such an inspiring example, and I make them feel motivated to want to be public and want to do it too." And I find that very encouraging, and I would absolutely be honored for that to be a part of my legacy.
that's awesome. Okay, so now you can tell me the question that um you thought I was gonna ask that I actually ask all my guests.
I was gonna say, am I subscribed to your channel? Is that the question?
Mm-hmm.
No, I
Yeah.
am. Of course.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, do you want to tell the people to like and subscribe?
Yes, absolutely. Please, please like this video, subscribe to this channel. There's more great content I know Joshua is going to continue to bring. And Joshua, thank you so much for having me on. It was a pleasure, and I really appreciated your questions.
I, I I'm excited. I mean, having you on here, it was, I mean, I've been looking forward to this, and I do want to say thank you, Brooke, for doing this with me. Thank you for hopping on, sharing your knowledge and insights with the Josh Chris podcast audience. Totally appreciate it. And you're such an amazing person to chat with, and your journey specifically is, you know, it's just phenomenal. I would
Thank you so
say,
much.
yeah, pleasure. I would say that actually listening to you, when people listen to you share your journey,
Mhm.
personally, do you know what, what's going through my mind? It's like a torrent of light bulb moments. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, great. Yeah.
Like, to break it down, but it's like this overwhelming distribution of
Mhm.
light bulb moments, and you're like, you know what? I can do this. I can do that. I do want to say a lot more, but thank you very much, Brooke.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, that makes me so happy to hear. So thank you, Joshua. I so appreciate you.
Okay, we've had such a bit of time today. Do you know what? How would you say us doing another episode together sometime later, probably talking about a specific topic, or maybe when you land your dream job or something like that in a thing? Do you see that happening sometime later?
Of course, Joshua. Yeah, we'll stay in each other's circles. I'm always open to having a conversation about future collabs, okay?
Yeah. And that's all for now. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now. Thank you, Brooke, and bye.
Bye.